Yeah, I don't know. I guess at the end of the day, I'm not happy with myself.
And what do you think it is about the night time that makes you so unhappy?
What are you, an idiot? It's an expression.
You know what? You have no idea the challenges of being a therapist. I've been sitting here trying to listen to you, create an open, non-judgmental space for you to explore your psyche, and the first chance you get, you completely belittle and question my intelligence. Well, you know what? Therapists are human beings too, and we make mistakes.
Let me guess. Narcissistic tendencies, defense mechanisms, blah blah blah.
Something like that.
What's up, everyone? Today we're talking about therapy. Now, I resisted therapy for a long time. It scared me. It felt like going to therapy was an admission of failure in some way, and like I was admitting that I was broken. Like, oh, look how broken I am. I need someone to fix me. Also, just being afraid to ask for help. But I've been in therapy for about 2 years now, and it's been one of the most fruitful parts of my life. It's had a huge hand in developing my self-esteem, breaking down old ideas about myself, and just giving me the courage to be a more active participant in my own life, which is huge. That's a pretty big deal. Now, whether you're in therapy or not, I think some of the lessons that I've learned could be really helpful for you. So I want to go through my 5 biggest takeaways from therapy. Number 1, we may not see ourselves clearly. Now, I thought I was self-aware entering therapy. I thought I was going to come in and just like blow my therapist's mind with like how much I know about myself and like my whole narrative and like I know my attachment style, so I don't really need you. I was wrong. I was wrong. I thought I was extremely open-minded, but completely out of touch with any of my emotions. And in one of my earliest sessions, my therapist said, no, Josh, you're actually much more emotional than you give yourself credit for, but you do have extremely rigid ideas about yourself that I don't seem to be able to shake. Why you do things, what you're capable of, why you are the way you are. And I was like, really though? Really? Really though? I didn't believe it. I was like, well, pretty sure that's not the case. I've got a pretty good handle on it. So... And then I was like, that was pretty rigid of me. And after being continually challenged in that way by my therapist, I started to slowly erode those ideas about who I thought I was. It was such a huge shift when I realized that my ideas about myself might genuinely be wrong. And it's kind of terrifying because once you start to believe that, then you think, well, who am I? All of my assumptions about myself could be wrong. And then for me, I kind of felt worse because I felt like I was completely at sea. My identity was up for grabs. But then I was more malleable, less limited. And that moment right there, that is when you can change. It's like you're being pulled apart by your therapist and then you have a chance to put yourself back together in a better configuration. And I don't think I could have found that on my own. I think I needed someone objectively on the outside, looking in, challenging me on my ideas about myself. And this is one of the principal powers of a therapist. They're there to point out stories that you're telling yourself that might not actually be true. And that can be really hard to take on because those ideas are so calcified and rigid. They've been there for so long. And therapy just slowly starts eroding them so you can replace them with better ideas, more truthful ones that serve you more. Number 2, taking responsibility. Once individuals recognize their role in creating their own life predicament, they also realize that they, and only they, have the power to change that situation. One of the biggest things I've learned in therapy is that really everything is my responsibility. Now, I don't mean that other people can't wrong you. Of course they can. Sometimes you are a victim and people do terrible things. But at the end of the day, no matter what history you're leaving behind you that have led to you being the way you are, you're left to deal with that big old pile of shit. Trauma, and this guy said that, and my mother did this, and the divorce, and the blah. You have to deal with that. No one's going to be able to change you. I feel like great therapy is just a slow accumulation of personal responsibility, just taking on a little bit more and a little bit more as you can handle it. Maybe I can be better in this relationship. Maybe I can be less reactive here. And that is literally the definition of taking charge of your own life. That's what that means. Why do I seem angry? I'm not angry. Am I? And of course, this is scary. Freud once said that most people do not really want freedom because freedom involves responsibility, and most people are frightened of responsibility. I mean, he also said we all want to have sex with our mothers, which is not boobs, true. I think the reason it's scary is because once you take responsibility for yourself, then there's no one to blame but yourself. But it's worth the trade-off. Basically, therapy gives us the chance to take our destiny into our own hands. I can't believe I said destiny unironically. But I meant it though. But I meant it. Number 3. What a real breakthrough looks like. When I started going to sessions, I was always waiting for this big breakthrough, you know? She says something and I'm like, whoa, and then I just start bawling my eyes out, convulsing on the ground. I forgive everyone that's ever hurt me and I just leave that room a completely different person, never to regress ever again. Fixed. Whole. That is not how it happens. I mean, yeah, I had some really big emotional moments, some releases, and I would leave feeling, much more full than when I entered. But that feeling would dissipate over a day and then I'd be back on my bullshit. I'm sure the big irreversible catharsis happens, but it's a minority of cases. Breakthroughs are slow. They're gradual. Often we don't even notice how much we've changed. And this is another power of the therapist, to point out your growth. Because we're here in our heads and we're here all the time, we often don't notice when we actually make changes. But because you see the therapist once a week, every 2 weeks, whatever, and they're on the outside, they see these snapshots of you coming in and they just see you climbing, growing, changing, and they point it out to you, and then you can go, oh, you're right. A couple months ago, I would have reacted to that completely differently. That person saying that would have sent me into a depression for a week, but I was only down for a couple of days. Whatever it is, they give us the gift of pointing out how grateful we should be for how far we've come. For me, I realize I've had a breakthrough in really little moments. It's someone cutting me off in traffic and me being like, yeah, instead of, and then being like, oh, I dealt with that much calmer than I would have normally. Number 4, the relationship is everything. Your relationship with your therapist is like a training ground for all your other relationships. Therapy is like this little microcosm of your life. It's this emotional dojo where you get to try out new techniques, attitudes, ways of connecting with yourself and others. And as you work on your relationship with your therapist in the moment, those lessons bleed into all your other relationships. For example, I was having trouble connecting with others. That was my main issue. So when I would be in therapy, sometimes my therapist would say, if you feel something come up, I want you to bring it up in the moment. If you're feeling sad or angry, whatever. I started doing that, and as soon as I started feeling emotions, I wouldn't be able to maintain eye contact with her. I'd be like, yeah, I'm feeling kind of angry or depressed. And she'd be like, Josh, you're very good at eye contact until you're feeling something, and then you immediately go away. And so I forced myself to come back in, and it made me really emotional, and I cried and whatever. And then once I'd done that, once I'd taken that step, I actually found it easier to open up with other people in my life, my friends, my family, because I'd practiced it with my therapist. And that's another thing about therapy. It's not always about going back through your story, building your personal narrative, why you are this way. I think most of the work is actually done in the present. All that shit happened. You've got this challenge now that you're working on, so let's work on it now, in the present, in relation to another person, the therapist. Number 5, you get out what you put in. I'm sweating. I think when I first started therapy, I was like, okay, I'm here, fix me, lady. But I very quickly learned that it's on me to bring more of myself to the table. The more courageous I was in therapy, the more meaningful the work would become, and the better results I got. So now I come in with ideas about what I want to work on, experiences I've had, dreams that I've written down, and it always makes for a much richer session. I mean, we're paying for it. We might as well get the most out of it, right? And that's it. Now, you might be asking yourself, should I go to therapy? And that's kind of hard because I don't know you, so it's kind of presumptuous. Yes, you should. If you can afford it, which I get, it's expensive, then 100% you should go to therapy. It's like when someone asks me, should I exercise? I mean, yeah, obviously, you don't need to. You're not going to die if you don't exercise, but you'll certainly feel better. Therapy is like a gym for emotional intelligence or resilience, self-love, connecting with others. And I'm almost certain if you go, you'll learn lessons to live a more fulfilling life. Ice. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, there was an see ya. I mean, he also said we all want to have sex with our mothers, which is not boobs. True.
Oh, yes, that's very good. Oh, that's delightful, yes.
How many planes are going past?